Welcome to Believe It or Not. The world is full of pandering actions by councils, governments, companies, and institutions that seek to ensure that no one is offended. This normally takes the form of sanitizing gender, race, trans issues, and so on to such a degree as to become ridiculous, and where right-minded people increasingly hold their heads in their hands.
Believe it or not is the antidote to that. Each week we will discuss 6 woke announcements or news events that will make your blood boil. The thing is though, some are made up. Can you work out which ones are so ridiculous as to not be true, or are the ridiculous ones actually real? So,
Yes.
let's start with me this week challenging Esther here to believe it or not. Are you ready?
I am ready. I'm nervous.
So I have in my hand 6 edicts, 6 items from the news agenda in recent weeks. Let's see out of the 6 which ones you think are true and which one is not. Okay, so the first one, there's a pub in Devon called the Tors, whatever that is. Maybe it's a Devonian thing, I don't know. The Tors, T-O-R-S.
Okay.
And they have in their wisdom, as a symptom of overt political correctness, in my view, decided to rename the Ploughmans Lunch the Ploughperson's Lunch. And the reason is that they say that the world has moved on. They want to ensure that they are being appropriate and correct in terms of how they address their menu for their community. And I'll add, because they want to ensure that all the farming women in their community don't feel left out when they come into the pub to order lunch.
Isn't the female of a farmer? Like, that's a gender neutral term.
It is, but I guess the proprietor of that particular pub, maybe they've had complaints from farming women that don't want to come in and order a ploughman's lunch, almost that therefore dictates that lunch is somehow only fit for a man or is only able to be ordered by a man. So ridiculous.
That is ridiculous because everyone I've met from Devon is very straight talking. So I actually don't think there's much of an appetite for that. That's absurd.
Yeah. Well, clearly the owners of this particular pub are worried that people might be offended by the menu. I dread to think what else they're going to
Or if it is, surely it's a joke, like it's satire.
Well, it could not be true, of course.
It
could be true, it might not be. So Esther's going to decide at the end, and obviously, look, play along in terms of whether you think that this or any of the next 5 are true or not true. So, so look, if it is true, I think it's absolutely ludicrous.
I just think it's very weird. Like, it's not something. I mean, I used to live around that area. It's very much not in the appetite of people from that region.
Yeah, so look, I can't imagine for a second that anyone has actually complained. Yeah. I suspect it's someone of a left-leaning persuasion that has decided to take it upon themselves to make sure that people aren't offended, even though, as we well know, there are people in this world, like the proprietors of this pub in Devon, the Tors, who actually go out of their way to try and ensure that people aren't offended.
Preemptively,
even though they're not offended.
Yeah.
Even though they're not offended. So anyway, look, if you want an inoffensive lunch, trot down to
try the
Tors in Devon and
what's it even made of?
And have a Ploughperson's. I would imagine it's vegan cheese, lettuce, hemp, and yogurt.
Did I tell you I had vegan cheese last week? It was the most disgusting thing I ever put in my mouth.
Yeah, the last person in the world I think that's going to go vegan is you, Esther Craig.
I'm trying to reduce the amount of meat in my diet.
Yes, okay, no comment. Right, the next one.
Okay.
The New York Times.
The New York Times. Oh, this is probably
famous
true.
Institution, has recently bought Wordle. You know, the game that the world seems to be obsessed with, where you have to kind of work out what the word is after 4 or 5
they have pregnant persons in
different clues. So what they've now done is to sanitize Wordle as a game.
Shocking.
To ensure that they take out of the answers anything that is offensive, including such words as Harry. So not Harry as in our friends Harry and Meghan, although some would say they are both offensive. But Harry with a small h on the basis that means to harass or to agitate. So the New York Times have banned the word Harry from Wordle answers, just in case it offends. And the other word that they've apparently, again, this might not be true, or is it, they have banned is the word bloke. Because bloke is slang and it's masculine and it's offensive.
Have they banned like lad?
Yeah. So what do we think of a world where the New York Times, one of the world's most kind of a premier publication on the planet, decides that in a game it wants to sanitize the answers in that game so much so as again not to allow people to be, big inverted commas, offended.
Who let the New York Times buy Wordle? Who thought that would be a good idea?
Well, capitalism did, I guess, because it was all about the ka-ching, wasn't
That's like asking the Guardian to buy Scrabble.
Yeah. So do we think, and there will be people watching this that say, yeah, I kind of get that because, I don't want to be playing a game on the train on the way into work and be offended by such words like bloke and Harry and, other such
If you
things.
think that, seek help. If
Yes.
you're one of these people he's just described, seek help.
And
unfollow me on Twitter because that would be the most traumatizing experience of your life.
I agree. So that's 2 down.
Okay.
Third one.
Okay.
The Wonderful World of Disney.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you might know about this. This has been really well publicised in
Okay.
recent days and weeks. So Disney are doing a couple of things. The first is that they've banned the term boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen. So now when you rock up to Disney, so wherever it might be, Florida, California, I think there's one in Japan, Euro Disney, of course, and you normally would be addressed as part of the parade, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, boys and girls. That's been banned. So the bosses at Disney now do not want there to be any reference to boys and girls because it's too gender specific, or ladies and gentlemen because of course it might offend trans men, trans women, or indeed people that decide not to have a gender and therefore there is no gender as far as they're concerned. Anyway, and then the second thing that Disney are doing apparently is to ensure that 50% of all their cast members in future, so the princesses, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, are LGBTQ. And would ensure
50%.
50% are LGBTQ.
Aren't they less than 10% of the population? If
well,
that.
And there's the rub, yes. That even though there is a specific proportion of the community, the LGBTQ, they want to ensure that they overreach in terms of making sure that they're doing even more than perhaps they need to ensure equality and diversity.
I'm sorry, this is not equality. This is misrepresentation. And also, this is actual outright indoctrination. To ban the word, assuming this is true, and I have no reason to doubt it because Disney's gone down the rabbit hole, ladies and gentlemen, to try and make society seem like a bunch of genderless widgets. It's very weird. We're not a bunch of like clay models just moving.
Well, look, I don't know what happens if we completely airbrush gender and biology out of the planet. I guess that might have an effect on reproduction in the future. It would be kind of the end of mankind.
But you see, the people that always advocate for these things never have kids, and I would like to keep it that way. Don't procreate.
Maybe they shouldn't.
Don't do it. No, but this is it's like always these environmental activists. They're like, stop it. What future are we creating for our kids? You don't want kids. None of them ever want kids. They're literally sitting on the road, blocking everyone's way, and asking to get run down by a car.
And I think that the wider point is if the woke. If the left, if those that want to culturally sanitize everything get their way, that in itself is diverse, right? Because all they're doing time and time again is bringing to the fore the question of race, trans, gender,
again
and so on.
And again.
Yeah.
So boring.
So actually all it does is to divide even more by way of the fact that they are raising these issues as issues. If we just left well alone, I mean, and also, how can you be in a position where you don't count gender? And actually, we'll come on to this in a second because there's another, believe it or not, coming up, which actually will highlight my point even further. But anyway, so Disney, I'm thinking of boycotting Disney, seriously, on the basis of their woke nonsense and how they're overreaching. And again, who are they trying not to offend? I mean, do we really think that the trans community, that those that believe there's no such thing as binary gender, do we really think these people are lobbying the CEO of Disney to say, look, please, I was offended yesterday, I watched Mickey and Minnie Mouse, and as a consequence of you saying, or Mickey Mouse saying to me, good morning, or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, hello, boys and girls. You see the voice? Maybe.
Have you seen the South Park episode where Mickey Mouse is like this butch bully? It's like, keep my name out of your mouth, and he's like beating up the kids.
Well, that's definitely not going to happen.
It's like a satire. It's like Will Smith on steroids.
That's definitely not going to happen. So anyway, look, that's my third, Disney. Is it true? We'll see. Okay. Number 4, you ready? You join these?
I'm horrified because I know for a fact that it's mathematically impossible that these are all lies.
Okay, so on the continuing subject of gender, so you're going to get more horrified and more pissed off with this, I suspect, as time goes on. Wisconsin in the US school district has banned teachers from disclosing to children's parents if those children come to them with issues around sexual orientation or gender.
See, that should be illegal.
Yes.
That should be illegal.
So in other words, a 12-year-old kid goes to the teacher and says, hey, I'm having some issues, and declares that they are a female rather than a male, or vice versa, or indeed, again, they have no gender, or that they're gay or otherwise, that has to be, as far as the Wisconsin school district is concerned, has to be kept from their parent, even if that child is demonstrably under the age of responsibility.
You're a parent. Does this not piss you off?
Yes.
Like, I'm not a parent yet, and it just makes me so angry because you're literally grooming these children. That's what it is. And corporations like Disney that are backing up their 10 activists that are angry about this are destroying families. They're destroying children's lives by propagating this nonsense.
Yeah. So I have 3 daughters who are 12, 12, and 13. If one of my daughters was to have an abortion, and at school they knew about it and facilitated it and didn't tell me, and that's kind of where this is all going in terms of forgetting the age of responsibility and parental responsibility under that age. I mean, I would be not just horrified, I would...
You would sue.
I would do more than sue, I suspect, because it would be an abhorrence. And it's the same as if you have a child at the age of, let's say, 15 or 16 and they have a drug habit. It's kind of going the way that child will confide in the school, but the school, according to Wisconsin School District, won't tell the parents. Now, how can that possibly be proper?
How can anyone, including these school districts and educators, think that they have more rights over a child than their parents? That's where they're going with this. They're saying, we know how to take care of your child best, so we're not going to actually disclose to you important information about their upbringing because we're the good guys.
It's not right. It's outrageous.
No, but someone's going to get hurt because parents are really... the last thing... I mean, listen, I've seen a female dog, for the sake of YouTube, I'm just going to call it a female dog, actually try and kill my brother and I because we went to pet one of her puppies. The parents that are enraged by something to do with their children have no boundaries because they shouldn't have boundaries.
They have the right to know what their children are doing, what they're up to, and what ailments they have, and so on. And schools do not have the right to keep that from parents, in my view. Okay, but of course it might not be true.
Oh my God!
I may have just made that up, and we just had a really good kind of 2 or 3 minute debate. Really got you going. Okay, the next. Australia, our friends in Australia. New South Wales, the state, are introducing a rainbow-coloured birth certificate that has no gender on it. So, at your request,
this is a very gender-themed.
Imagine you have a child and you're so politically correct as to you decide that child is not going to have a gender. I mean, God help it. You can not only have a birth certificate with no gender on it, so no one will be able to know or decide
child abuse
whether it's a boy or a girl, but you can also have it coloured in a nice rainbow just for effect.
Yep, child abuse. Child abuse. And the reason why this is child abuse, why are we taking these conversations around gender so seriously? Because at an intellectual level, it's called gender theory. It's theoretical. The reason why it's not fact, it's hypothetical, is because it's just that. It hasn't been proven by science. Actually, most if not all of science and scientific literature disputes a lot of the notions in gender theory. Even the basic idea that gender and sex are not the same things and they're often very different. That's not the case.
Gender and biological sex.
Yeah, exactly. But gender is linked to... I mean, in French, it's an interchangeable term, gender and sex. To say that a man a biological man doesn't have any sort of masculine traits or things that are traditionally associated with masculinity. It's just an individual with a penis, a genderless widget. It's ridiculous.
Well, we're attempting, or some parts of society, certainly not we, are seeking to eradicate gender because we believe that there is something wrong with being a man stroke a woman, and actually in particular being a woman, on the basis that it seems that women are perpetually oppressed. Frankly, I don't think they are. I think society, it's clear, is more equal now than ever. I also think that if you have a situation where there is no gender, what happens about, and we can have the debate all day long about guys in toilets and bathrooms with 12-year-old girls that really should not be there. But how do we then, if there is oppression in the workplace, so let's talk about, very quickly, the gender pay gap. If there's no gender, how do you know who's being oppressed and affected?
That's really good. Actually, it should be the XXXY chromosome pay gap. That should really be what it is, but then that would really enrage them.
Yeah, well, you could have multiple, I guess, pockets of discrimination, couldn't you? Because
Yeah.
of course, as someone said fairly recently that there's up to 500 genders apparently.
Oh, it's limitless. I don't know if you saw my thing with Benjamin on GB News where I just cracked up laughing because he couldn't tell me how many genders there were. But I think
What, because he thinks there's none, or
there's
because he thinks there's
infinite.
thousands?
There's infinite genders. You can be
Have
whatever
they all
gender
got
you
names
wish.
and colours?
They're even two-spirit ones, so apparently. I think my thing is, at the level of legislation and policy, this is where it bothers me the most. And because I don't really care what a bunch of random weirdos that have pink hair and those things in their noses think about gender or anything like that, because they don't really cross my life. And I think once, at least at a level of policy, we can keep some sort of common sense, I'm fine. It's when the leader of the Labour Party, for instance, is saying that women can have penises, right? When
Or
you
doesn't
have
answer because he doesn't know, but then
or
he's
he doesn't want to
forced to say
offend.
it,
Yeah,
doesn't want to
exactly.
offend,
Or the
yeah.
shadow equalities minister cannot define what a woman is. That's where I take offense, because if you cannot say what half the population is, you have no business trying to govern them. And if you can lie, because at this point, the whole gotcha thing of asking public officials, what is a woman? It's like a gotcha moment. That's not the question here. You should be asking why they're pretending not to know. We all know what a woman is. Even when we call trans women she. I said this on Twitter and I got completely ravaged by it. Everyone knows a trans
sure you
woman is
weren't
not a
bothered at
woman.
all.
Oh, I was not bothered at all. Everyone knows a trans woman is not a woman. We're just being respectful. But at this point, society's level of respect has gone to hit the floor because now we have biological men infiltrating women's spaces in sports, in bathrooms, in prisons. That lady in the NHS ward was raped by a biological man that was saying that he or she was a woman.
Well, and there are rapists in prison that now
Exactly.
identify as women that are in those prisons
And
with
raping women.
Yes.
So I think our respect has gone through the floor, but that is what's bothering me. Why are they lying? Because we all know what a woman is.
Well, and we know why politicians are lying is because they are, again, the theme of this whole show here has been they're trying not to offend.
Yeah.
The thing is, I want my politicians to be conviction politicians. I want them to have a side. I want them to take a stand. I want to know what they think. I don't have to agree with them all of the time, but I absolutely want to know that they have an opinion. Otherwise, what's the point of politicians?
And they're a
If
complete disaster when they come into office because we don't know where they stand. And excuse me, a perfect example is Joe Biden. He was
Or
supposed
Boris
to be...
Johnson,
Well,
who
Boris
starts
Johnson
off
is
being
just-
some Gladstonian liberal, apparently.
Now he's a one-nation
Well, it turns out he
conservative.
doesn't have any ideology at all. He's just a populist.
Yeah, one nation conservative running this country into the floor.
Shall I do my last one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any feelings so far? Is my 5 so far? Which ones might be true? Which ones might
They're
not
all
be?
so similar. I don't think I'll be disappointed with the one that's not true because I'm so disappointed with most of them.
Okay. Ready for the next one? Okay. Lewisham Council,
Okay.
Labour-run council in London.
No, I love how you point out that's a Labour-run council.
Labour-run, I'm just saying. No correlation at all. Has banned the words black and
Okay.
man.
Okay.
So in all documentation now, Lewisham Council, all of their internal documentation, emails, and everything that's published publicly will no longer include the words black or man. So things like manhole covers, management, managers, they're going to have to find different words for those.
So what is it? What are they replacing with?
I
Mahogany
don't
and
think
male?
they've decided yet. So
Okay.
again, they just want to make sure that they don't offend people by coming up with something that's equally offensive. Black bin bags, eradicated.
To what?
Literally confined to the dustbin of history.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a very good one.
Yeah, because they don't want to offend. Are you offended as a black woman by black bin bags?
I don't even know what you replace it with. Mahogany?
No, that's offensive, presumably, to people of that particular skin
But would you
tone.
replace it with different shades?
They'll
I
just
don't-
call them bin bags, but how the people will know whether to put out their black bin bags, which is standard rubbish, or in my town recently they had orange bags for recycling, for instance. So
Okay.
if you don't talk about black bin bags versus others, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, but it's another example of political correctness and wokeism tying itself up in knots just to appease a very, very vocal minority.
But what about professions? So what is a blacksmith going to be called?
A horseshoe maker. I don't know. I haven't thought this through. I'm not the solution to this. That's for sure.
I don't even know.
So,
okay.
should we wrap up? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's very, very keen to know exactly which ones were true and which one is not. What's your pick? Which one do you think is not true? Shall I recap?
Okay.
A pub in Devon that's
Okay.
renamed its lunches the Ploughmans Lunch. The New
Horrific.
York Times, which is basically woke-washed the Wordle game.
Okay.
Disney, no more girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen. 50% of their characters are going to be LGBTQI. You couldn't get any more letters of the alphabet or consonants.
I mean, they might as well take the whole alphabet, right?
Wisconsin School District banned teachers from discussing children's gender or their sexual orientation with parents. Or Australia, New South Wales State, which has introduced rainbow-coloured birth certificates that have no gender on it. Why am I laughing? And Lewisham Council has banned the words black and man. Which one is false, Esther Kraku?
I'm going to say the one that I hope is false, because I feel like if it's not false, there needs to be some parents with pitchforks.
Do we agree that all of them are pretty ridiculous?
Oh yeah, all of them are absolutely ludicrous. I mean, if
Which
you
is the
handed
point,
me
right?
like a multicolored birth certificate,
Yeah.
I'd probably like chuck it in the bin. I'm like, I'm going to call it until you issue me a
And
proper
10
one.
years, even 5 years ago, sitting here now, if we predicted all 6 of these, I think most people, the media included, would have said, that's just ridiculous. That's not the way the world's going to go. Well, it has, because 5 out of 6 of these are true. Which one's not true, Esther?
I really hope the Wisconsin one is not true.
So you think the one that isn't true is the Wisconsin School District has banned teachers from discussing children's gender.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, oh my God. We're going to hell. We're in hell.
Okay.
We're in the nice circle of hell.
Disney?
Ladies and gents.
No more girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen.
That I
references.
can believe.
That's true.
Because, yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
A pub in Devon has renamed its Ploughmans the Plough Persons. That's true.
Oh my God. You need to have a level of IQ to be doing this. Like that's a minimum level.
Even more ridiculous, the New York Times is sanitising Wordle by taking out words such as Harry and bloke. That's true.
Oh, God.
That's true.
Who let them buy it?
And Australia, New South Wales, introducing a rainbow-coloured birth certificate
tell me it's lying.
without gender on it is true.
Oh, God.
So the one that isn't, thank God, Lewisham Council. Apologies, Lewisham Council. I kind of threw you under the bus here.
Yeah.
Lewisham Council are not, or shall I say not yet, introducing a ban on the words black and man from all official documentation. So there you go.
That's
Lewisham
a relief.
Council, false. The rest of them are true. How ridiculous. What a world we live in. Look, comment please on this. Let us know what you think. And we will be back soon, next week, on a weekly basis with some more.
Believe it or not. And don't forget to subscribe, because you just watched this whole video, you've enjoyed it. It's just rude to leave without subscribing. Like, who raised you? Do you know what I mean?
See you
Fix
next time.
up.
See you next time, guys.